Hey people, it's EDDBUD here. Got a shoe review for you today, one I've been very excited to get in hand finally. It's the Adizero Adios Pro 4 from Adidas. It's been ages since we had an update to the top Adizero model. Glad I picked up a pair from Start Fitness recently. These cost me 220 quid. Not a soul is going to be vetting my views before my valued viewers get to see them. Thanks for joining me on the channel, people. It is always appreciated. Do help me to reach 1 million subscribers by hitting that subscribe button. It's free of charge, don't you know? Also give this video a thumbs up, like, and drop us a comment as well to help with the algorithm. Dankeschön. Okay, the Adizero Adios Pro 4. In my UK 11, this one's weighing about 231 grams. So it's about 8.1 ounces, which ain't a lot. I'm finding this one true to size. Some of the viewers have suggested they wanted to go a half up. I found Adizero models to be pretty true to size over the last couple of years, really. Don't need to half size up on them, and I don't really feel that you need to in this one, in all honesty. Tried it with a thinner sock and a much thicker Adidas sock, and it feels perfectly fine for me for marathon paced sort of stuff, despite the 39mm on the heel. Obviously that is the stack for the sample size. I've got 43mm back here and around about 36mm up front, so kind of like a 7mm drop approximately. It ties in with the sample size measurements pretty much. I've normally got about 3 to 4mm of extra heel stack over the sample size, so that pretty much ties in here. Typically we have a wider surface area here, certainly in the forefoot in the Adizero Adios Pro model. I've got about 12.3 centimeters here, pretty wide, and about 8.5 in the heel, which is narrow. That's pretty much what you get here with this type of shoe. Now the big change here is in the softness of the foam. This is not the Light Strike Pro that you all know. It is very different, very soft and compressive. Instantly you feel it on taking the shoes out the box. It's not the same beast. It's good straight out the box, guys. You don't need any break-in on this one. Way softer to the touch, certainly in the heel where you've got a big cutout here. Very compressive, very squashy. Unlike every version of the Adios Pro so far. Outsole wise, Adidas have switched things up again. We've got a small portion of sort of very sticky sort of continental rubber up front here. That's measuring sure a 60, and the other section seem to vary quite a bit really. The portion back here, which is just like a flat piece of rubber, is like 40, which is actually softer than some foams. The rest of it seems to be about short a 50. The foam itself I'm measuring at around about short a 20, so it is a very soft shoe. Mr. Bojangles. We shall kick it off with the upper first, as per usual. I'm glad to see that Adidas have just simplified things here. They've got rid of those weird lace loops at the front of the shoe. There's less material here. It's more sort of foot hugging, I suppose. Very similar mesh sort of structure to the Adios 9, which I really love. The heel area is very reminiscent of the Adios Pro 3 in terms of this sort of flip up tab here, and it's actually quite useful because the tongue's actually stitched into both sides of the upper, so you kind of shoehorn yourself in there. It's not as coarse as that material that we had in the Adios Pro 2 and 3. It doesn't kind of stick to your sock. It's just nicely soft like a kitten. Laces slightly better quality here than what we got in the Evo SL and the Adios 9. They're a little wider. You still have the mega thin ends to them, but it's not really a big deal. Adidas just trying to minimize the weight here, and for that I applaud you. A shoe that's size 11 that's 231 grams is really something to behold. You don't get that all too often. There's some slight reinforcements where the eyelets are, just to provide a little bit of extra wear resistance, and there's some plastic reinforcements just sort of around the toe box here, and also stretching back into the heel. It's a very simple upper. It's very reminiscent of the Adios 9. Even got that sort of light lock feature here. It does kind of feel like that shoe really as you lace it up, but it's very different underfoot. There's no traditional heel counter here. It's pretty flexible. You do have this sort of plastic overlay to provide a little bit of structure. I have to say this is one of the most comfortable uppers I've used in a long time. The upper's soft enough, it's fitting, glove-like really, easy to get a really good lockdown. One thing I would say is if you're going to use a runner's knot, you're going to have just about enough lace left here to tie a double knot at the end. I mean, I've got pretty slender fingers, you know, guitar player dexterity, and, you know, I was just about able to do it. But, you know, for a race shoe, you don't want loads of excess stuff, you know, flapping about, do you? The sling style heel here works a treat, really holds you into the shoe. I managed to get a good lockdown first try. No messing around. One perhaps slightly perplexing omission here is the tongue padding. If they just given us an extra centimetre here, it would have helped to relieve a bit of the lace tension perhaps you might get. I didn't have any myself, but I can see some people getting a bit of lace tension sort of digging into the top of the foot. Just an extra, you know, centimetre could have done it. I've got a slightly narrow foot, and this is a absolute beauty. Perfect fit here and almost no reservations. I'll give it a 2.9 out of 3 for the upper after my initial runs. Midsole now, imagine having a stare at these shoes for like a couple of days, you know, take them out of the box, have a look at them and stuff, but being unable to run because you've got the flu and a cold. I've only just got over it. I feel sort of half reasonable today. I took these out for an initial run in terrible windy and wet weather. I was mad, really. I should have had another day off, but I just really wanted to try these out, only to find you can easily hit marathon or half marathon pace without much strain at all, barely even trying. That's how good this midsole is. It's a complete departure from the Adios Pro 3 out the box. This Light Strike Pro stuff ain't the same. Squashy, more return. This feels like the material that was used in the Energy Core section of the Prime X. I love that shoe. Some Prime X-y vibes about this one. The softness in the heel here is unlike any Adizero model I've tried out. Real impact protection here and quite a rocker-like sort of feel. You can feel it propelling you along. It's quite apparent. Real nice transition there from the sort of heel, the midfoot through to the forefoot. You can see it's quite pronounced actually, that curve here. I found this ideal for like half marathon and marathon effort. Perhaps even too soft for like 10 or 5k. But yeah, for the ones I'm doing, my favourite sort of events, yes. Oh yes. Now, softness in the midsole was good. People love that. But I've noted something already running in the areas I do where you've got some debris, you know, some woodland stuff out there. This foam is so soft. I got loads of thorns stuck in here. You will get little rocks and bits and pieces embedding themselves into the exposed foam. So yeah, with softness comes more sort of a forgiving shoe, but there's always some downsides. The shoe feels certainly nimbler than the 257 gram Adios Pro 3. That was like 9.1 ounces, so you've lost an ounce basically. As such, I feel that many people will pick these up and they'll be able to cover any common race distance. It's not going to be a bad shoe at 5k, come on. I think where the Pro 3 was totally locked into like half marathon or marathon effort, then this one could do that. But, you know, hang on, EDDBUD, where does that leave like the Takumi Sen and like the Adios 9? Aren't they like better options for short distances? Well, maybe there's a big update coming to the Takumi Sen, and the Adios 9 just pretty much feels kind of like half of one of these. I think this new midsole material crushes a lot of other brands. At 220 quid, I think there's very few reasons why you shouldn't try this. I'd certainly place it into the same realm as the Metaspeed Sky Paris from Asics, in terms of excitement at least. The Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 3 as well, similar I suppose in terms of squash, and the Hoka Piba foams, I think they're a little firmer than this in fact. It's a world away from the Evo SL as well. There's not really a huge amount to compare between that shoe and this one. Love it on the first runs, a 2.9 out of 3. That's not given lightly, just marked down a touch due to the very soft exposed midsole, which will soon tarnish. We are moving on to the outsole now. So we've got this light traction rubber. I was a little bit dubious about this because of the colour. You can't really see the lug depth, but it's actually really great in terms of grip. We do have that portion of Continental, just like the Adios 9. In fact, there's a lot of stuff that's very similar here, just slight changes between the two shoes. All those miles run in wet weather, and it was just superb on pretty much all surfaces in those conditions. The rubber on the medial side of the heel was very, very flat, and only on sort of muddy conditions, like a sort of soft smooth mud, was it at all slippery. And the application of that material here on this very soft foam, I am a little bit worried about that. That's where it's going to take the brunt, the pounding here. Let's hope we don't get any detachment issues with that rubber coming away from the foam. It's really impossible to say how long this sort of rubber's going to last either. No one knows all that much about it yet. It's a new kind of thing. I have to stress though that the conditions I tried these shoes out first were awful, really windy, loads of standing water everywhere. Probably tell by the state of the shoe, it's pretty dirty. Debris on the ground, bits of tree branches and dirt and mud. Loads of rain on and off. It was terrible. It was like the worst conditions you could try it in, and it was brilliant. It stood up really well, no slipping whatsoever. Outstanding performance out the box, and who would have thought so, even with these very thin lugs. 2.9 out of 3, only dangerous on the muddy areas. Talking value now, 220 quid. Very competitively priced, lower than the Vaporfly 3, significantly lower than the proposed price for the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2. Puma coming in a little bit lower with the Deviate Elite 3. That's quite a narrow shoe, and that's not so much the case here in the Adios Pro 4. I guess the only shoe that's kind of lighter really than this is the Puma and the Asics Metaspeed Sky Paris, and again that's a slightly sleeker, narrower shoe. While the Adios Pro 3 was a sort of wider, more stable kind of marathon option, it's a little bit on the heavier side. Adidas have removed an ounce off it, and it makes a massive difference. More engaging and exciting to run in. I think this brings Adidas back into the marathon game big time, especially when you've got models out there that cost way more than this, that have got way less return and just aren't as engaging. They don't lower the perceived effort as much as the midsole does here. Why would anybody spend 450 quid on the Pro Evo 1 when you could buy 2 pairs of these instead? Build quality's pretty spot on out the box as well. The midsole pieces are pretty well put together. They match up. There's no dodgy stitching or anything. It does feel like a nice quality shoe, although it doesn't look as clean as it did before. I'll give it a 2.9 out of 3 for the value. 220 quid, still a lot of cash. But for the price, I think this is a real belter. If I've totaled the scores up correctly after my initial runs, I've got an 11.6 out of 12 for the Adidas Adizero Adios Pro 4. Close to pure brilliance here. There's very little you'd change really to make it any better, and one of the best running shoes I've tested out in a long time. It's either the Alphafly 3 or this for Manchester Marathon now. Adidas really on the money. Have you picked up the Adios Pro 4? Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one down in the comments. Very quick musical interlude for you. This is a track by Nick Drake from an album that was called Made to Love Magic. It was released back in like 2004. Kind of like a tape, I think, that they might have found of some songs that weren't quite completed. I think there's a couple of tunes on there where they had music that had been written but never actually recorded, and they had a vocal from Nick Drake on one of the tracks that they added in using, you know, synchronization. But the track I love on here is the introductory track, which is called Rider on the Wheel. Is a beautiful acoustic touch. The finger style playing on the acoustic guitar is simply sublime. I love the warmth to Nick Drake's delivery as well. The vocals, always mystical and magical, just paints a picture of like a autumn day really. You can almost feel the wind in the trees. His vocal delivery is just so brilliant. It's so natural. He's not trying to be anything other than himself. And in life, people, how many times can we say that someone is truly unique? They're just being themselves. There's no excess stuff being added. They're just simply stood there doing the thing, and that really does make it unique and really quite wonderful, characterful. Go and check it out, people. Rider on the Wheel by Nick Drake. Thank you for tuning in, people. I'm glad to be back. I had to have a few days off from making videos. I just felt absolutely drained. Really knocked me out, that flu and the cold. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up like. Also, drop us a comment as well to help with that YouTube algorithm. My name's EDDBUD, and I'll be seeing you